Hey, peace everyone. This is Clark Illmatical, writer and creator of Masternever and Flow of Death. Sorry, I just lost my light. I don't know why. But in any event, I wanted to talk to you all about, I don't know how long that light's going to last. So, here while I am creating my comic, Masternever, I wanted to talk to you all about the process and a lot of the ups and downs that I've gone through over these years. Um, Masternever started out as I've been fortunate to keep a lot of my documentation, but just last year, finished the main art for the graphic novel. It has taken me years of trial and error, figuring shit out. What works, what doesn't work, what can be improved on. So it was like a long process of. So let me tell you how I got started, and yeah. So this all started back in 2006, man. Um, Now, really, that's not truthfully honest. This really started, with my growing up watching kung fu movies and stuff like that. I'm gonna post a link. I had even written an article for Time Out Hong Kong about growing up watching Shaw Brothers films, growing up watching The Last Dragon, growing up with a lot of heroes, hero mythology stories like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, a lot of being influenced by video game culture. So that was the foundation. Then I remember vividly around 2005, I kept having this. I kept having I kept having this thought about. Excuse me. I kept having this vision of like a character, a black protagonist in. I would watch these Shaw Brothers films, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was drinking sometimes. So there was this corner store that had a whole bunch of Shaw Brothers films, and they were all ripped off, but I would go buy them sometimes, like $10 for 3 movies or whatever, and I would watch them. And I remember I was thinking about like, how could I put this, you know, black. I had this idea for this black kung fu person in these films, and so that was like one of the some of the beginnings of this journey. Now, in 2005, that was a transitional year for me. I started writing. I was writing for like graffiti magazines and some sports, some small sports newspapers, New York City Sporting News. I mentioned graffiti because I'd gone in 2006. I was going to photography school, and while I was in photography school, I kept seeing this character at night. This the same protagonist, was and I was afraid to kind of share my stories with people. Um, I was afraid, like, I thought people were gonna think I was crazy, but sharing my photography in class, and one guy was like, all these places that you go to, you're like Batman, and he saw it, and I knew I wasn't crazy. It was kind of like the the places that I was going to, or taking photos of, were a reflection of this character's journey. Masternever, uh, walking around at nighttime, having these adventures in Chinatown, New York City, or having these adventures in different locations. So I used my camera to kind of paint this narrative, and another person had actually seen it. He saw what I was trying to do. So around 2006, this is when I went and tracked down. I remember around 2006, I was interested in writing the sequel for The Last Dragon. Because I had been thinking, like, whatever happened to The Last Dragon. The Last Dragon was a very inspirational film for me. And so I tracked down the original writer of the film, Louis Vanosta, and he actually met with me. He was willing to meet with me, and we met in Times Square, New York. And he broke down, he helped me understand that The Last Dragon really wasn't about martial arts. The Last Dragon was about inner mastery, and I had never looked at it that way. And that's the reason why The Last Dragon resonated with me, and why it resonates with so many people, is because it's not really about kung fu. It's about the morality behind the story. And this is the same thing that's in this Heroes. So then he mentioned, he asked me about Joseph Campbell, whether I knew about Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell, for all of you who are not in the knowledge, Joseph Campbell was the individual who inspired, his philosophies inspired George Lucas. And he had studied mythology for several years and became a very prominent scholar and lecturer on mythology and how these stories are actually found in all the stories of the world. And this was a home run for me because I grew up, my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, and so I grew up around the Bible. And I've often told people that the Bible, even though I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, the Bible's full of stories. And so I became immediately attracted to Joseph Campbell's works. Like the following few months, I think after meeting Venosta, I'd read all of Joseph Campbell's books, because Joseph Campbell focused on metaphor. And I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. I grew up deciphering Bible prophecies and studying, texts in the Bible. And metaphor was a core part of their teaching. And in addition to that, I grew up listening to rap music. So it was like this combination of interpretation of stories that immediately attracted me to this journey. So that was the beginning, the humble beginnings. After meeting with Venosta, I wrote back to him. I was like, I gotta go and create my own story, because The Last Dragon is a reflection of him and his journey as a writer. But I knew that as a writer and creator, I could not, write The Last Dragon Part 2, because that's not my story. So I had to go create my own story. So the following year, 2007, I registered my first script with the Writers Guild. I remember I wrote so much during those following months, man. I spent so much time at the Brooklyn Library. Got a lot of books on fiction writing, screenplay writing, and I registered my first script, Masternever in the Flow of Death, around January 2007. 2008, one of my buddies who used to work at this company that had these large printers, I'll shout out to him. I did a lot of bulk printing at his company's facilities, and he's not there anymore, so I won't. But I remember I printed my first. I even have a copy of the cover. My first book. And I sold my first independent book on the streets of Harlem and a few other places in New York City. But this was the journey. This was the journey. So in the next few videos, I'm gonna talk about comic book creation and what spawned the journey for the graphic novel. But it's been a long journey. For those of you who know me, I've traveled throughout the world. There's been times when I've paid some of my illustrators in Hong Kong, and I've met illustrators in Hong Kong, and I've met some of the people on this project in Hong Kong, and it's tied to my life journey. And so I'm thankful for tuning in, and I'm interested in sharing the creation of the completion of the project here with you. Peace.